two things. I have a monthly Hara development drop-in session. It meets the fourth Saturday at this time of each month. And we decided to combine that with this inaugural event presentation for the Habit of Freedom. So some of you, and I'm very pleased with the turnout, some of you might be here for the usual Hara development drop-in, and that's fine. But because we have a lot of new faces, we have people from all over, people who may not be familiar with our methods of training and particularly Hara breathing, I'm going to be doing some review. And review is good, review is good for everyone, including myself. I do want to take a little time to talk about kind of the concept of Hara breathing and how it fits into the scheme of our training, and go over some of the basic exercises. So those of you who have been through programs with me before, or the Hara development drop-in, this will be a review. And let's all treat this as a way of enforcing some very good habits. Now, also, we're going to go to, let's see, 7:30, 8:45, is that correct, Central Time? I will leave ample time for questions and answers at the end, maybe more than I usually do at a Hara development drop-in. So feel free to ask, save questions for the end. And if you have pressing questions, feel free to interrupt me. If there are too many, we'll put them on hold, but I want this to be informal. I think that's all I can think of at this point. Any questions about the format? Okay, so I'm going to begin. I want to talk about what Hara breathing is, and I'm going to do an attempt here at screen sharing. There should be a picture of a monk, and it's clear and it's big enough. Okay, so I want to give my history, my formative story of why I see Hara breathing and the related concept of Hara development so essential. So I began my Zen training in our tradition over 40 years ago. And I had come from a martial arts background where I had thought I had been taught deep breathing techniques. But when I started to train in our tradition, I was given a instruction the first day. So for those of you who are here, first day with us, you don't have the background, I'm going to say breathe from your Hara. I had no idea really what they were talking about. I knew that the Hara meant something having to do with the lower abdomen, so breathe the lower abdomen, and I thought I had learned that. And no matter what I did, I couldn't do it. And this went on for a long period of time. So I have this picture here. This is kind of how I felt. Very much, sitting there, the person walking there with the stick, we don't do that here. This is traditional Japanese training. This is not where I trained, and it wasn't quite that formal. Would go over and, tell people, give them feedback how they're doing, give them instruction. It may not have been the kindest thing in the world, but it would always come down to breathe with your Hara. And I tried all kinds of things, and it just couldn't do it. And this went on until one day I had sort of a psychophysical epiphany, if such a thing. Well, it does exist because I had one. And as many times as I told the story, I could re-experience the feelings that I had. In long story short, I had a terrible day. I was very angry. I had to drive about an hour and a half to train in a different dojo. And went in, I was changing my clothes, and I was just really, basically, I was really upset at my boss. And I was telling people in the changing room, and they were looking at me like, all right, enough already. All of a sudden, as I had gotten increasingly agitated by this, something changed in me. If it was like a quantum jump, where all of a sudden, it felt like my center of gravity fell about 3 feet. it felt like in Zen terms, we say your stomach dropped. And that's what it was for me. And then this light bulb went on and said, well, that's what the Hara is. I felt I found my Hara. And more significantly, at that point, there was a tremendous change in how I experienced both myself and the world. And both, I never went back to where I was before that, but also I feel I have continued to develop that over the subsequent 40 years, and I'm still doing it. And what I focused on maybe the last 10 or 15 years is how do we make this more approachable and easier for other people. Okay, so just briefly, my take on Hara. Hara literally means in Japanese the lower abdomen. It's the geographic part of the body, roughly from the navel down to the pubic bone, and going around the flanks and into the back. So there's a physical element to it. But it also intersects, that physical element also intersects with two other things. The second is psychological, and the third is spiritual. And let me just talk briefly about those. First, physical. Okay, I talked that there's a physical, there's a physical geography of the body where the Hara fits in. And let me introduce two other, I'll try to not inundate you with Japanese terms, but some just don't translate into English very well. And I'll give an example of that a little later. So if you look here, up here, if you can, where's my cursor here? This is the navel. Everyone knows where that is. I think when we're about 6 months old, we figured that out. And then the Hara, the Hara is that area, that dotted circle there. And it's three-dimensional. You can see from that turned view there, it goes really into the core. I'm looking, this picture doesn't have a picture of the Hara, of the Tanden, actually. Wait, does it? Hold on. Yeah, okay, we'll come back to that. And this is from an old Hara development manual that came out of our dojo in Hawaii. And this goes from the ancient Chinese cosmology, the Taoist cosmology. And according to it, the chest, as you can see in the diagram on the left, is called the realm of fire. And is that right? Yeah. The chest is the realm of fire, and the lower abdomen, basically the Hara area, is the realm of water. Now, if you bring the water up to fire, what happens? It puts the fire out, and you have steam, and that's illustrated in the second one. You have the water goes up to the fire and the steam, and you can see the kind of coloration of this guy's face. That's kind of the ki or ki has risen too high. It's an unpleasant, unhealthy feeling. But if you bring the fire to the water, in other words, you drop down, then you make steam. And steam permeates the body. That's a metaphor for ki or chi or ki, vital energy, vital psychophysical energy. And that is vitalizing. And that's what we aim for. So if you think about this, we want to bring our fires to our water. Now, from psychological point of view, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but Hara is a very important concept in Japanese culture. And there's some interesting sayings in the Japanese language that conveys this. One is Hara no oki. You talk about the person with a big Hara. And what that means is that person, we would say in English, is closest to someone has a big heart. They're compassionate. They're bountiful. They help other people. It doesn't work in English if we say And that would be a compliment in Japanese. Oh, that person has a big hara. But in English, you say, oh, that person has a big belly. It might fall flat. You're not going to win a lot of friends. We say, in Japanese, they say, hara ga tatsu. The hara rose, or the hara rises. And that's that bringing the water to the fire. And what that means is that, the colloquial translation of that saying is that it would be like the person lost their head. They got carried away with anger or emotion, like I was that day I described. In Japanese, they say hara rose, and I used to think that was metaphoric, but it is just that. The physiology of the body changes in terms of how you breathe. And then there's a saying, hara no dekita hito, which means the person who has finished his or her hara. That means that is a wise person. That person is fit for leadership, kind of a fully evolved, I don't like that term, fully formed human being. So that means that they have done hara training. So this actually should be labeled, this is the spiritual dimension. Okay, so we have physical dimension, psychological dimension, and spiritual dimension. And this should say up here samadhi. Samadhi is another very important concept in our training. It is not very well defined and described in English. Whitelaw Roshi, I think, came up with the best. It's, intense concentration from a standpoint of no mind. So it is alert but relaxed concentration. And that's one of the main things we want to develop. And if you want to work on a habit, develop your samadhi. That's a good one. And then also, we talk about ki. I've talked about vital energy. And that's the steam that permeates when we breathe correctly, metaphorical or psychophysical steam. And I have this, there are two sides to it. There's from intense training. That's where you might develop your breath from a rigorous standpoint. And then you have an effortless, more bountiful, compassionate side of it. They're one and the same. In some ways, you can't or you shouldn't have one without the other. You'll be hearing a lot about ki as we go ahead. Now, let me turn to actual hara breathing, and I'd like to look at it in terms of there being 3 levels of breathing. The first is thoracic, which is chest breathing. Chest goes in and out. There are a lot of reasons why that is neither healthy nor good for you. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Most people who have not done some kind of training naturally, but now actually I'll change my terminology from what I usually use, by means of habit, breathe from the chest. The next level of breathing is diaphragmatic or abdominal. This is a better way to breathe. The lower abdomen goes in and out like a bellows. Very relaxed, can be very relaxed. When you breathe in, it goes out. When you breathe out, it goes in. You're not engaging the muscles of the chest all that much. And we can talk later in the questions and answer period if you want to know why one is better than the other. Happy to talk about that. And the third level of breathing, and this is what we aspire to in our training, is called Hara breathing. And that is, for most people, for the vast, vast majority of people, actually for everyone that I've ever met, that has to be worked on. Now, Hara breathing has elements of diaphragmatic breathing in that when you breathe out, when you breathe in, your lower abdomen goes out, but when you breathe out, it stays out. So basically, no matter what you're doing, your lower abdomen stays out. Now, This is a diagram. This was my teacher's view of the sequences of Hara development. And I want to just read from this. So that figure on the left, figure number 5, it says, at the first stage, this is of Hara development, there has been no Hara training and the navel points downward. So one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is, where is your navel pointing? Downwards, straight, up, okay? We'll look at that later. Second stage, here. At this point, there is conscious training of the Hara and the breath. You are learning to both place strength in the Hara and to take strength away from the region above the navel. Because the Hara is tensed and the upper abdomen is relaxed, the navel now points upwards. So if you can see here, the top arrow, there's kind of a indentation right under the sternum. And then the lower abdomen, since it's relaxed, you can see the navel points up that way. But this has to be worked on consciously. And then stage 3, the diagram on the right, he says at this stage, you are no longer conscious of the Hara or your breathing, and the navel constantly points upwards. This posture can be called fudo-tai, or immovable body. The person is always centered and balanced, capable of an infinite number of motions in any direction. So basically, we have a progression of not thinking about your breathing, and it's not going to be most likely pretty healthy, to having to work on it, to breathing properly naturally. So I'm going to show, this is one of our most senior Zen masters in Hawaii. And I managed to talk him into taking his shirt off while he was breathing. And I just want to show you what it looks like at a very, very, very high level. So you can see the indentation and you can see the expansion of the lower abdomen. Oop. Here he is exhaling. There he is inhaling. Exhaling. Notice this. This is that soft area, or the indentation rather. And again. From the side. See, his navel would be pointing up. You'd have the arrow right there. I think that's enough. So if I was doing a schematic diagram like that, I would say, here, let's get here. When you get a nice frowny face like that in your torso, then you've got it. Okay, just to wrap this up. So this is my view of the stages of Hara development. And this is an elaboration of that 3-part one before. First, most people they have no sense of Hara, unless they have other training, like music training, martial arts training, yoga. And they breathe habitually. In other words, breathing is one of those body functions that unless something comes up and you pay attention to it, you do it completely habitually. So I'm going to call that a habit of constraint. If you are breathing non-optimally, let's put it like that, it limits you. Okay? And you're limited because you haven't given a lot of thought, you haven't done training. It's a habit of constraint. Then you become aware of Tande. Now, I'm kind of mixed my PowerPoints. Tanden is a related term to Hara, which Tanden is just 1 point below the navel. It's in the Tanden. In Japanese, it's used largely interchangeably with Hara. So let's change this to, then you have awareness of Hara. And I remember my teacher said that, it starts with kind of a warm feeling in your lower abdomen. Okay. So then you start to work on that Tanden breathing. Now, I have met in my 35 plus years of teaching, very, very few people who can just come in and start doing Hara breathing. For most people, they have to learn how to do abdominal breathing. And that's what I want to concentrate on now. Abdominal breathing is at second level. The abdomen goes out when you breathe in and in when you go out. If you can't do a deep abdominal breath, you can't breathe abdominally and deeply, you can't do Hara breathing. And most people don't have that all of a sudden experience like I have. It's more incremental. So there's learning abdominal breathing. Then there's deepening abdominal breathing. Then there's a transition to Hara breathing. That's where the abdomen stays out. Then you deepen that. And it's still intentional. You have to have the intent to do it. Breathe. Hara. And then at the highest stages, it becomes automatic. And I call that a habit of freedom, because you are breathing properly. And not only that, through breath, you develop the proper state of mind. I talked about samadhi, this sense of relaxed alertness, or the sense of alert concentration or deep concentration from a standpoint of no mind. And that is a habit of freedom. Okay, I'll talk later. I have a blog on Hara development, and come back to that later. So before we go into exercises, any questions so far? Just speak up. We don't have to look for a show of hands. If there are no questions, I can go on. Okay. All right. So the way I'd like to begin a Hara development session is to take a check on how you're breathing, because it's gonna vary through the day. It's gonna vary depending on let me just change something here. Okay, whoop. Okay, it's going to vary for a lot of factors. So what I want you to do is put one hand right under your sternum and the other hand on your lower abdomen. So maybe it's kind of right below your navel. So we're sort of monitoring two parts of the abdominal core. And without putting intention on it, or putting in as little intention in it as you can, I want you to just breathe naturally. I want to see, what is our habits of breathing at this point? So pay attention to two things. First of all, which hand moves first? Which hand moves first when you inhale? Which hand moves first when you exhale? Number two, how much do they move? So how much do the hands move? Which moves first? Okay, so just go ahead and breathe. And just keep on breathing your habitual breathing. Okay, so I want you to kind of tuck away, so to speak, those sensations. This is your baseline for our session today. But before I go on, would anyone like to comment on what you noticed? Just speak up. If you don't want to, I can live with that.
Sure, I can share a little what I noticed.
Please.
I noticed my top hand moves a lot more dramatically, and I think it moves a little before the bottom hand.
Okay, so top hand before the bottom hand. Okay, um, that's generally what you'll see in a thoracic breathing from the chest. Okay, where it goes out. Yeah, let's see if I can recreate that. Might be hard to see on screen. Okay, anyone else like to comment?
Yeah, Roshi, after the Hara is set, wouldn't it also be the same that the top hand would move?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. And there are two ways that you're going to have minimal motion, minimal movement, uh, uh, and particularly in the lower hand. And that is, if you're breathing with your chest, your lower abdomen isn't going to move. But if you're breathing true Hara breathing, where your lower abdomen is expanded throughout, it's not going to move. The way to tell the difference is the movement of the top hand. Okay? In chest breathing, the top hand will move in and out. Hara breathing, the top hand moves very little and moves in when you exhale, just very subtly. If you can think of the video of Honda Roshi, you would have had a fair amount of motion where that frowny face was there in the top hand. Vitaly Sensei, does that answer your question?
Yes, Roshi. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Oh, another hand. No. Okay, so let's move on. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, don't apologize.
Interjecting here, but the comment about setting the Hara, we say that all the time, and I remember the very first time I heard this, it was as if I was supposed to really understand what that setting was. And so sooner or later, even in several years of practicing, I'm not sure I fully understand what setting is.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, that's a very good and a very critical question. And I can say is, man, I've really been there. Let's put that on hold now. We have CWR questions and answers. Or next time at the drop-in of this, I have a follow-up session in March on this. We'll go into it. It's a little more advanced for people who are starting right now, because I want to focus on abdominal breathing. If that doesn't work, back channel me, and we can set up a Skype on that. There's some exercises I can give you for that. Okay, so let's do this. Go back to your hand position. Okay. Take your baseline breathing, whatever that is. Now, next, I want you to see, just from that, is there something you can do so that you can bring this lower hand in when you exhale and out when you inhale? You might be able to see on my screen. And that's without pushing it. You can push it. It's kind of cheating. Just, can you figure out what to contract the lower hand, so when you breathe out, it comes in. When you breathe in, it comes out. So try that. And you may not be able to do it. Next, we'll go into exercises to help with that.
So Roshi, just to confirm, this is abdominal breathing, right?
This is abdominal breathing. I want to, yeah. Was that Scobie Roshi? I didn't quite, it sounds, yeah, it sounds like you. We are not, I wanted to introduce Hara breathing because we talk about it and breathing from your Hara. But let me say again, very few people can go right to that. So for those of you particularly who are new to that, first you have to learn how to breathe abdominally, that second level. Okay? Does that answer your question, White Roshi, or clarification? Or thanks for the clarification? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, so what can you do? So when you breathe in, or breathe out, it comes in. When you breathe in, it comes out. Are you able to do that? Okay. Anyone want to comment? Anyone notice anything? No? No comments? Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Is it like you're pushing your breath? Like when you breathe in, you don't just breathe in, but you push the breath right down into like the tandem area, like how you breathe, like say if you was doing if you was doing like yoga.
Let me give a short answer to that, and that's yes. Provided that the lower abdomen stays out when you do it. And also in yoga, I don't have much experience in yoga, but from what I understand, there's a whole lot of breathing techniques in that. So they're including reverse breathing where you do the opposite. So I don't want to overgeneralize by saying, like what you do in yoga. So you clearly have more experience in that than I. Okay. All right. No other questions or comments now. I want to go into and review for people who've been around before. This is my basic exercise on how to, you have to loosen up your lower abdomen so that you can take a very deep abdominal breath. Okay. And I call this an isometric exercise because it involves tightening muscles intentionally. I actually got the idea, for those of you who know of Edmund Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation, PMR. It's been around for years and years and years, where you learn to tense muscle groups in order to learn to relax them. And then one day it hit me that we can do this with the lower abdomen. So I'm going to, let me just walk you through the instructions. You don't have to do anything, but here's what we do. So first, I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath in, as deep a breath as you can without straining yourself. Use come into your chest, lower abdomen, whatever you can do, as much as you can. And I'll raise my hands because I may not be able to talk when we do this. I'll turn them over. And then when you exhale, I want you to tighten your abdominal muscles as much as you can. We say it's like you're bringing your navel to your spine, and it should be like you're doing a crunch almost. So as you exhale, you're tightening and bringing in your lower abdominal muscles. And then as you exhale, so by the time you've completed your exhalation, you have basically all the air out, your lower abdominal muscles are tightened, and I want you to continue to tighten them. Like if I ask you to ball your fist and tighten it, you continue to tighten. We'll do that for several seconds. Then I'll go 3, 2, 1, okay, or relax. Then I just want you to let go of that tension in your lower abdomen. Like if I'm tensing this fist, then all of a sudden I just let it go. And I want you to do that with your lower abdomen. After that, I want you to breathe with whatever feels natural at that point. Okay? So tighten, 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 relax. And then as you relax, breathe in. So I'll add that. Tighten, 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 relax, and breathe in, and then breathe naturally. You don't want to do this multiple times in a row because don't want you to get lightheaded. Okay? Any questions about this? I'll walk you through this the first couple repetitions.
I've got a quick question.
Yes.
When you talk about tensing your abdomen, are you talking about like concaving it in or like pushing it out?
Tightening it, bringing it in, concaving it in. We say navel to the spine, like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay? Does that
That
answer
makes
the
sense.
question? Okay. Now, if someone has, if someone's pregnant, they have a hernia or something like this, we're not trying to stress people. There are other ways to go about this. So just be judicious. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Okay?
Roshi, real quick, maybe they should also tighten the sphincter muscle a little bit.
Most people will do that naturally, and thank you for bringing that up. So what Pateli Sensei is saying is as you tighten your lower abdominal muscles, tighten your sphincter muscles, or kind of women know this, like you're doing a Kegel or Kegel exercise, pelvic floor exercise. But then when you relax that tension, relax that as well. Okay? Thank you. Okay, ready? First breath in. Inhale. As much as you can into your chest. Exhale. And flatten your abdomen. Bring your navel to your spine as you exhale. And then continue that tension. Like you want to continue to draw your navel to your spine. Tighten it. Tighten it. 3, 2, 1. Relax. As you inhale and then go back to breathing naturally. Okay, we're going to do this again. And this time I want to add kind of a mental component. I want you to pay close attention to the difference of feeling, particularly in your lower abdomen, when it's tight, as you're tightened, and when it's relaxed. Okay? So inhale as much as you can. Exhale. And tighten, 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 tighten. 3, 2, 1. Release. And then breathe naturally. And you've paid attention to the feelings, tensed and relaxed. Okay, we're going to do this again. Third time. Ready? Inhale. Exhale. Tighten, 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 tighten. 3, 2, 1. Release. Back to breathing naturally. Okay, before we go further, any questions or comments, things that people have noticed?
It's Jennifer.
Yes.
had the question of when you're tighten, 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 are you holding your breath then, or are
Yes.
you still, okay?
Yes, and if I left out that instruction, you should be holding your breath so that the next movement with your breath is when you relax and you inhale. Thanks for asking that. Okay. Kate, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, I just noticed a lot of softening in the Hara area after that holding, and then that breath in, everything just sort of feels like it's dropping.
Okay, and that's what we're looking for. Thank you. Anyone else or anyone have questions or problems with it? We had a question.
No problem with, but there was slight there's like slight pressure in also the back, the small of the back.
At what point? When you were tense?
At the very end. At the very end.
After you released or when you were tense? Tense. Yeah. Okay.
Tensing, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, you can. I know you can take a little. A little tension there. As long as it doesn't last, then I wouldn't be concerned about it. Thank you. Okay, I wanna go a little further with this, and then going to introduce another component. Going to inhale, do the same thing. I want you to pay attention to the sensation of relaxation when you let go. So you will have held your breath as you've tensed your abdominal muscles. You let go as you inhale, and as you exhale, I want you to see if you can feel that sense of relaxation in your lower abdomen spread. And spread, however, a little bit in your abdomen, through your body, and basically, if we go back to progressive muscle relaxation, where I got this idea, you tense, relax, and then you pay attention. Can you get that feeling of relaxation, say, to go up your arm more? So let's do that a couple times. You ready? Any questions about that instruction? Okay. Yes? No? Okay. Ready? Inhale. Exhale. Tighten, tighten, tighten. Feel that tension. 3, 2, 1. Release and inhale. Breathe naturally. See, can you feel relaxation spread? As you go back to breathing naturally. Okay, again, inhale. Exhale. Tighten, 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 tighten. 3, 2, 1, relax. Go back to breathe. Can you feel tension, the relaxation spread? If I said tension spread before, sorry. I'm trying to get away from tension. Okay, third time. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. Tense, tighten, tighten, tighten. 3, 2, 1, relax. Okay, anyone notice anything with that? Or have any questions about that? And more specifically, can anyone feel the relaxation spread on that?
I feel a big relaxation in my shoulders when on the inhale.
Okay, good. On the inhale, yeah, on that second inhale, yeah. So basically,
Yeah.
what you've done is you've brought the fire to the water. Sounds like an old song, but you know, okay, right. Good. Anyone else?
Is it supposed to make you feel sleepy? I must be doing something wrong.
Well, maybe not. It ideally it should feel energizing, but it could be a stage that you have to go through. I wouldn't worry about that. There are a lot of things that can make people sleepy, so I just accept that for what it is.
Roshi,
Yeah.
as I get to the end, I get this shift in sound almost.
Yeah.
My hearing, I mean, it gets very quiet, very still, and there's a kind of hum, vibration. It's very pleasant, actually.
Yeah. That I associate with samadhi. So one of the things I usually say in an introductory session, and probably know this, is there's a saying in Zen that you cannot wash off blood with blood. It means that it's very difficult to control the mind with thoughts. And the way to do it is with the body. So the way we create this state of samadhi is with breathing. And things like clarity of sight, stillness of sound, or hypersensitivity of sound, hyperacuity rather of sound and of sight. Those are things associated with samadhi. That's a good sign. Okay, I would like to move on. I want to introduce one other component. This can be an exercise in and of itself. And we'll talk about what I would recommend for an exercise regimen to change the habits of breathing. And if you can remember the video, it's kind of hard to forget, really, of under Roshi, you have the frowning face here, right under the ribs. Okay, so if you take your hand, you can poke right under the ribs. You can actually manipulate in there. And let's do this. I'm going to add this as a separate exercise. If there's time, I'll combine it. So the exercise is this. What I want you to do is just watch me first. I'm going to take a deep breath in, as deep as I can. So you can see I'm expanding my rib cage. And then when I breathe out, I'm going to press in here. As I breathe out, press in here up under my ribs with my hands. And I'm going to do a little massage. You can do as much or as little of the air as you want. And then when you inhale, your hands come out like that. Okay, and take a couple natural, unforced breaths. Okay, inhale. And then I'm just demonstrating, and then exhale. I might move it out here, under here, massage. Funny, first time I heard about this, I said, well, that's kind of strange, but it feels good. All right, ready? Inhale. And what we're doing, if you think about that video, just softening up here, okay? We use words like tension, and I drop into that every once in a while. When I look at these old writings, it's there. It's really relaxation. The key to this is relaxation. You can relax, most of your lower abdomen and relax in here, and it feels real good. Okay, questions about this? Okay, ready? Inhale. Exhale and push in. And if it feels uncomfortable, back off the pressure or don't do it. Massage around. And then inhale. Regular breaths. Okay, inhale. Exhale. Now you can move your hands out a little more, like out towards the side of your body more. Really getting under there. Relax Relax it in there. See if when you inhale, your hands naturally pop out. There, do it one more time. Choose your area. I'm going to go out a little more here. Inhale. Exhale. And then inhale. Okay, and then go back. Breathe naturally and put your hands down. Take a drink of water.
Roshi, the blood flow is dramatically changed.
Oh, can you say more about that?
Yeah, it's a tingling. The arms, the legs, besides the shoulders being relaxed and the posture elongating in an upward fashion, the blood flow is flowing, which is
Okay,
great.
good.
To
All
the
right, good.
fingertips, the legs, the arms.
That's what happens when you bring the fire to the water. So that's going to be my theme now. Fire to the water.
Roshi,
Yes.
there's something I wanted to share that I
Yes.
found myself that
Is
when
that Barbara? Yeah.
when I breathe and and massage the area right below my rib cage,
Yeah.
part of my experience is some emotional stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And I thought I'd mention that just in case I'm not the only person, so that you could let people know that that's okay.
Oh, I think you've just done that. Thank you, Barbara. And that's actually true of not just this, but other components of our training. And we see that as a good thing, in that it is releasing both psychological and physical attention. Now, if it's disturbing to anyone at any point, just get hold of a teacher, and I'm happy to stay around afterwards, or you can back channel us. Thank you, Barbara. Okay. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. And what I want to do is remember the baseline. That's this. We just kept our hands there, and we paid attention to, well, actually, three things. Which hand moves first? How far do they move? And where's your navel pointing? So just breathe the best you can now and notice those things. So we've gone from baseline. This is the post test. It's really not a test. Well, you know what I mean. Okay. Anyone want to comment what you noticed pre-post?
I definitely feel warmer because I was cold in the beginning and I'm not cold anymore. I do have a question though about the sphincter muscles. Like I feel
Yes.
like do you tighten it at the end of the intake?
Yes. Long story short, yes. And that's a little more advanced when we get into other kinds of breathing. Most people do it naturally. But you want I don't like to use what I put is, what I usually say, what I'm going to say now, is that you put some tone in the pelvic floor when you exhale. And you just loosen up some of that tone when you inhale. Does that address your question? Yeah, answer it? Yeah, okay, good. All right, let me just say a couple other things and I'll open up for what question for questions. What we've done are exercises. You don't want to be doing these all the time, or you're at the job and then all of a sudden you start going like this or whatever. I would liken this to, and people who know me, I'm not a musician, but to practicing your scales. This is foundational, and it's something that you can develop in ways that helps the other aspect of your training. So I found it helpful, and I found for a lot of people, if you put time aside, and it doesn't have to be a long time, maybe before you sit zazen, we've talked about there's the baseline. That's really not an exercise. 2 exercises: the isometric exercise, that's this one, where you tighten, release. And I have many variations of this that in the Hara development drop-in session, which I will now shamelessly advertise, the fourth Saturday of each month at 7:30 Central Time. And then we have this one. And these are ways of loosening up and putting proper awareness and tone in the right part of the breathing apparatus to have the quote-unquote Zen experience we want. So to put this back in the frame of habit, what we do in Zen training, so we say to break every habit, but we also do create new habits. By habits, I mean things that we don't think about. And let me just tell you one story and then open it up for questions and answers. I'm happy to go over, we can do that off the record. People have more questions, more advanced questions. After I had been Zen training for a long time, I was going to the doctor for some reason, I think annual checkup or whatever. And he took out this stethoscope and he put it in my back and he said, breathe deeply. Oh, okay, yeah, I know how to do that. So I took the best breath in. He said, no, breathe deeply. Okay. And I'm going, he said, Ken, and I worked with this guy. And I think he thought I was putting him on because we went through this multiple times. And he seemed to be getting a little put out, thinking I'm playing some prank on him. Guess he knew me. So then it hit me. He was watching my chest for my chest to expand. So then I said to myself, okay, and then I went, like that. He said, oh yeah, that's a real good deep breath. So I realized at that point just how much instinctively, habitually, my breathing had changed. And it took that external reflection to do that. So I basically, I hope everyone will develop that and develop it seriously, because that is the root of the Zen experience, in my experience. Okay, with that, let's throw it open to questions. And we have, about 5 or 6 minutes, and I'm happy to stay after this. So questions, I'll throw it open. Questions, comments?
When you're inhaling and exhaling, are you breathing through your nose or your mouth?
For what? For the exercises, or in Zazen, or in real life?
For the exercises.
So for this one, I breathe in through the mouth and out through the nose. It's easier to tighten the abdominal muscles when your mouth is shut, okay? And it's easier to get it, for most people, to get a ultimate deep inhalation with your mouth open. But I would say experiment. It's your body, figure out what works for you. But that's how I do it. Okay, yeah, good question. Yeah. Other questions or comments?
I have a comment. I
Yeah.
noticed that I had a hard time feeling the spreading of relaxation at the end.
Yeah.
And I stood up and I did the exercise standing, and I was able to feel the spreading of relaxation more easily. in
Yeah.
that position.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. Normally, I have people practice it standing up and sitting down. For the sake of time, I didn't do that. And in my experience working with people, some people are more comfortable doing it standing, some sitting. I think it's important from the standpoint, if you look at an overall practice of Hara development, to be able to do both and do both. But I would say if you're more comfortable doing it standing up, I'd go with that for a while. And you can also, try sitting on a chair or sitting. I used to do this at work. If I had a break between patients, I just do this a couple times, and that's a different posture that I normally take. But I would say that makes sense to me what you're saying, and it's a good thing that you can have an experience one way. So work on that. Okay. Other questions or comments?
I have a question about releasing when you tighten and releasing.
Yes.
How fast you release?
When you tighten, how fast the release? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah. So fast. It should be like I'm tightening. You're talking about the isometric exercise.
Yes.
This exercise.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when you tighten, it should be kind of all at once. And that inhalation should be quick. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. And in general, for those of you that have not had instructions in our way of sitting, we tend to take long exhalations and short inhalations. Okay. Okay.
But I feel more relaxed or some feelings when I release a little bit slower. Maybe.
Then go with that.
Not
yeah.
sudden.
Yeah. So there are, and fast and slow might mean different things to different people. The most important thing is that you're getting the maximal relaxation when you inhale. So that's fine. I'd like everyone to experiment what works best for them. And if that's for you, then that's fine. And then you might try and change it later and experiment. I like experimentation. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, is that Anne? Yeah.
As a beginner, I remember you mentioned that you don't want to do too much because you might feel lightheaded.
Yeah.
I wonder in like practicing our scales,
yeah.
How is there a certain number of repetitions that you would recommend?
Okay, that's a good question. Let me clarify that. I caution against doing it multiple times back to back, multiple breaths back to back. So I wouldn't go like that. I think for most people, you're on the risk of getting lightheaded. Okay, so that's why I recommend interspersing it with natural non-forced breathing. Generally, I practice this myself, and when I do an exercise session, I do it in sets of 3. And that could be arbitrary. But I find, for me, like if I'm going to take that break at work, if I do this 3 times, I found I'm not getting much from the 4th right then. So I would say experiment with that. But the caution is don't do this multiple consecutive breaths. And same with this. Okay. And maybe you won't get lightheaded, but it depends a lot on the person's physiology and their condition and number of things. Good question. Okay. Yes. Any other questions? Comments?
I had a quick comment / question. I noticed the second time we did that baseline, with the top hand, there's not only sort of a moving in and out, there's sort of a hinging in and out as well. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts there.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Let's see here. What I experience here, when I inhale, if by hinging, it's like the top part of my hand comes in more than my bottom. If that's what you mean by hinge, I can relate to that.
Okay, I'm actually having the opposite. It's
Okay, well, let's see if I can relate to that.
or I guess it's sort of a tilting out of the top, but bringing in at the bottom.
Might depend where you place that upper hand.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was thinking the same. Okay.
Right. I guess I have my index finger sort of on the bottom of the rib cage.
Okay, actually, I just moved my hand up now, and that's what I'm feeling. Yeah. So when I did it the first time, no. If I moved it up, so I had, let's see, if I have the top of my index finger right under my rib cage. Yeah, I will feel that at the bottom. So yeah, I can relate to that. I'd say keep going.
Sweet. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's hear any other pressing questions. I know people have busy days. There is the session tomorrow after morning sitting, White Law Roshi, so 7:30 Central Time. Let me also say, I do have my Hara development blog. Could someone put that in the chat for me? It's haradevelopment.org. One word, haradevelopment.org. I have these exercises. I may not have that second exercise in it yet, but I have that, a lot of background, and also feel free to contact me if you have questions.